Alright, so I said we were going to do a live video and we are going to see what we can do. I've been meaning to do this one for a while, and the goal is to take a look and see if it's easier to create something from scratch or to use a pre-made bottle of sauce. In this case, we're doing a sweet and sour chicken. What we're copying over here, or at least we're adapting, because we're not doing the deep fried version that my family tends to prefer. We are going to be doing my mom's sweet and sour pork recipe. And what you see, what I've already done here, is I've gotten the stuff in place that we would already need anyway for both recipes. So, of course, that chopping time is exactly the same. So we want to see just how quickly it comes together in both ways. And my guess is that it's going to be pretty much exactly the same. Now, we've got both of these on, or at least now we do, and we're just going to saute this up. Unfortunately, due to some of the shortages, we're running a little bit low on onions. And we're going to give this a few minutes on the saute. While we are waiting on this to cook, we're just going to try and knock out a few other things. Now, other things that we're out of, pineapple chunks. So instead, we've got pineapple rings that we just have to turn into chunks ourselves. And all I did on this is I pulled all of the juice out of these, because I needed it for one of the recipes anyway. Christopher, you can come around here and say hi. A little bit back. Wave hi.
Hi. Hi.
Christopher's usually my helper in the kitchen, but I think right now he's been out playing. You're welcome to stay.
Yeah, I'm going on a walk with Mommy. She's going on a second.
Okay.
I got tired.
I see. So we're just still sauteing some of this up, letting it go a little bit, get a little color and cook on it. And still, while I'm waiting on that, I'm going to go ahead and knock some of this other stuff out. And no matter what, you've got some dead time anyway while you're cooking. Or at least while you're cooking this. So you may as well use it wisely. You don't have to do all your prep ahead of time. Now, you don't want to go too heavy on the salt, but you do want to season it at least a little bit at every stage while you're cooking. And so, Christopher, you're going to stick around and help?
Sure.
Sure?
Want me to wash my hands?
Please do.
Yes, you will do that.
And as you guys know, things are getting a little bit hard to find at the store. So you just need to make the most of what you have. These green onions are getting towards the end of their life here, but some of the things that people would normally throw out, we're just going to use. And if you're wondering where I'm throwing that stuff, I've got a little compost bin back there. Christopher, you see what I'm doing here?
Yeah, I'm pulling off one of the things.
Yeah, you think you could do it?
Sure.
Alright, here you go. So you're going to pull off anything that's kind of brown, or some of the outsides on these are a little bit slimy.
There's nothing really shiny or brown on this thing.
Well, peel off the outer layer anyway.
This?
Mm-hmm. Now, I also have some rice going for this, because, you know, sweet and sour chicken, you should have a little bit of rice. Okay. Here, there's more. Keep them going. And just make a pile here for the compost bin. So I see I have one follower. Oh, hi, Holly.
Is that the inside leg? 'Cause I don't
Yeah.
think that is good.
No, that's good. And now I've got all these cooking on medium, so not cooking too hot. We'll turn it up in just a little bit when I add the meat in. And one good thing about this meal, like most of the ones I do, if you don't have pork, which is what this one called for, and what we happen to have on hand already, you could also make it with chicken, which is kind of your traditional, hey, sweet and sour chicken, American version of Chinese food. Or you could even do it with just plain old edamame, which we're going to add anyway because we want to make this stretch a little bit further. Let's pull that off. But yeah, you did good.
Baby slimy stuff.
Well, part of that's the onion paper.
Oh.
And you just gotta get it chopped. What's the tip? Is there a trick for keeping green onions fresh? With almost anything green in the fridge, I always put a paper towel in there in the bag with it because it's gonna absorb some of the moisture that these things put off. These are about a week and a half old, so no matter what you do, on a week and a half they're starting to get bad. But keep the questions coming. Christopher, could you go run this out?
Mm-hmm.
Don't open that and dump it.
Yes,
So-
open it and dump
Oh,
it out.
here. Yeah, you can do that. You're gonna need the scissors. So Christopher's gonna be a good helper and do what I don't want to do, which is take the compost bin out.
Well, I said we were doing a video.
We're actually doing most of this green onion for a garnish at the end, but we'll toss some in while it cooks. There's a technique or a way of doing this at a lot of the Thai restaurants that I kind of like. It actually works when you're cooking. I wouldn't do this with a raw green onion for consumption, unless you're like my wife's grandfather who loves to eat these things raw, just whole. All right, Christopher, throw that bag in the trash. And so we're just going to cut these in about 1.5 inch long strips. And that's the thing that's a little bit different. You don't get that in a lot of American cooking. We tend to use these just for garnish. And like that, the laundry's done. All right, I'm going to move all my veggies to the back of the pan. Put a little touch more oil in. So I see someone else joined us. Who else is on here with Holly? Hi, Holly. Well, I've got both Hollies, and now I'm up to 4 people. Man, this might be a record. So we're still going to season it as we go. For those of you who are just kind of joining us, we're doing a little experiment to see if I can make something just as quick with a pre-made sauce as I can making it fresh. So on this left pan, I'm making sweet and sour pork with a pre-made store-bought sauce. In this right pan, I'm going to make it myself. I think we all know which one's probably going to come out tasting better. Almost always when you make it... Oh, thank you, Christopher. When you make it yourself, it's going to come out better. And so for the pork, I'm just adding a little bit of salt and pepper. Quite frankly, it sounds good to add a little ginger to this, so I'm going to do that as well, if I can find it. So we're just going with a powdered ginger. What little there was in there. Hi, Lucy. And a couple more minutes and these will be about done. We'll be ready to add everything we need for the sauce itself.
Hey, Daddy.
Holly, don't talk down on yourself. I have had your dressing and your waffles. They're both very good.
Hey, Daddy.
Hey, Christopher.
I'm pretty sure that most of the food you cook is better than the food at that restaurant.
Well, thank you, Christopher. Why don't you say that louder for everyone to make me feel better about myself?
Why don't you say?
Because then it sounds like I'm bragging.
No, I'm saying my son said.
So Christopher thinks that most of my food is better than restaurants. Now, what I'm doing next is getting ready to make this sauce a little bit thicker. And we're just adding, the recipe calls for 5 tablespoons of cornstarch. In this case, it's a little bit smaller recipe, so I'm going to add really just about 2.5 heaping tablespoons. Put that back up there and check and make sure I'm not forgetting anything. So a lot of this is really just a matter of using your time wisely while everything else is sauteing up. So this also calls for some soy sauce. And it calls for an equal amount with the cornstarch. So I'm actually just going to mix those together. If you want to get really technical and ask Alton Brown, this is technically called a slurry. We're mixing cornstarch with another liquid or water-based liquid. And more or less it's a thickening agent. So as soon as I toss this in with the 2 cups of pineapple juice, it is going to thicken up pretty quickly. Alright, now that most of my pork is cooked through, I'm just going to mix everything else back in. This pan has just a tiny bit longer to go. We're trying to keep everything on the same page until we get to the last piece. And now I can add my pineapple. Christopher, you want to go ahead and open that for me?
Okay, this.
Yep, go ahead and open the sauce. Thank you. And just a minute longer on this other pan and we'll be good. It's a smaller pan, so things are a little more crowded. It's going to take a little bit of extra time. I'm also going to crank up my heat a little bit here. And the rice is about halfway done too, so things are coming along well. Oops, wrong place. Now in terms of the prep time I had before everyone kind of tuned in and before I started the video, I took maybe 5 minutes to cut up all the vegetables. And still we're waiting on that one pan. But this one's all ready to go, so I'm actually going to go ahead and toss everything in here. Oh, I did forget one thing. So I mentioned earlier we are adding some edamame. We're trying to stretch this out a little bit further. This is unfortunately, for a second, going to drop our temperature a little bit because it's frozen edamame. But helps us stretch that meal a lot further without adding a whole lot of extra cost. No, I think they're both ready, Christopher.
Okay.
We're going to get them back up to temp, and then we will add our sauce so that we can finish this off, and then we'll have to tell you in the comments later how it tasted. Because I'm not going to make y'all watch us eat dinner. Christopher, can you look over there and see how much vinegar I need?
Oh, that's 1.5.
1/2.
Oh,
1/2 cup vinegar.
I'm not that good at it yet. I just started learning that in math.
I know you just started fractions. This is a good way to practice. Alright, we've got that back up to a boil. Christopher, you want to dump that whole thing into this one? Hey guys,
What are you having for dinner?
we're having sweet and sour pork 2 different ways.
One with Daddy's tomato sauce, one with that.
Yep. Everyone say hi.
Aaron said hi. Cuckoo. Damn.
To them. Step back. Lizzie, everyone say hi, Lizzie. Declan says hi too. Declan, look. Look. Say hi. There you go. Alright. We've got this going. So this one needs just this one with the pre-made sauce needs just a couple of minutes to finish up in terms of getting thick and heating that sauce all the way through. Whereas I do have to get this one back to a boil before I can add the last ingredients. Now one thing you'll notice, and we will take this over here, is if you look at it, this one is not the color of your normal sweet and sour sauce that you get at most stores. This one, on the other hand, is. And I will give Aldi some credit. There's no artificial ingredients in here. You can take a look at that. It gets its color from annatto, which is, I believe, a seed, as well as some paprika. But we are almost done. Eliana, do you want to say hi? No? Okay. Those we add at the very end.
Well.
Say hi. Alright, we've got that back up to temp. This one we can turn off. So officially, whatever time into this we are, we can turn off our pre-made sauce. Now, we're adding our thickener and our soy sauce to the other one. And all it's going to take is bringing it back up to a boil before this is really going to start to thicken. And it's already happening. Now, if it gets a little bit too thick, which this one might, all we're going to do is, quite frankly, thin it down with a little bit of stock. So this is just a little bit of chicken stock that I always keep on hand.
Is that the jelly stuff?
And as Christopher mentioned, this is jellied, is what he called it. So this is a homemade stock. It's got a lot of natural gelatin in it.
Also really good.
He also thinks it's very good. Thank you, Christopher. I paid him for that. But about a minute and a half after the other one's done, we have both of our recipes done, and our rice is almost done as well. But really, we've got a minute and a half difference between a pre-made sauce. Let me see if I can flip these cameras around. So a minute and a half between a pre-made sauce right there and a homemade sauce, which both, thankfully to Aldi have all the natural ingredients, but we'll let you know which one's a little bit better. Either way, they're all pretty cheap since we used inexpensive ingredients. The pork itself was less than $2 a pound. Everything else was less than $2 a pound. And if you look at it, any one of these pans would more than feed my family. We've got 7 folks in the family. This one's going to go a little bit further because I also have control over just how much of the liquid I add. And that also can stretch it a little bit further. I also happen to like it on rice so that it can soak in, and a little bit more liquid is a good thing to do. And we've got our rice ready in the rice cooker. But Christopher and I, say bye, Christopher.
Bye.
We're going to sign off, and y'all go have some fun cooking yourselves. Let me know if you try this recipe. I'll post a picture of my mom's actual recipe in the comments. The only real change we did on hers is we didn't deep fry the pork. We actually just sauteed it in the pan. So a little bit more of a light style of cooking here. But y'all have a good one, and hopefully you're staying sane. Hi, Gail, by the way. Take care, y'all.